Hello again, welcome back. We're going to continue talking about web components, okay? In our last video, we talked about lifecycle methods, okay? So here we have connected callback and we have disconnected callback. So in this video, we're going to use those, right? And I left you with a challenge of creating a blink tag and a ticker tape tag, okay? So let's try creating those right now. I'm going to start by creating a class called blink text, and I will make this extend. So I'm going to choose extends HTML element. Okay, so this is standard for all web components. Okay, the other thing we'll need to do is we'll need to make a custom element or register a custom element. So I'm going to copy this line right here, custom element define, and I'll just put it underneath my blink text, and we'll give our tag a name. So remember, the name has to have a hyphen in it. So I'm going to say blink text, and then we are going to use this class for our custom element blink text, right? Next, our class probably should have a constructor, and then it will also have the lifecycle methods. So I'm just going to copy these two lifecycle methods right here from our sample code and put them right here like this. So here is the setup for our custom element, the code that backs it up. We've got a class, and then in that class I basically have three methods. I've got the constructor, which is a special method, but it's kind of like a method, and then I have a connected callback and a disconnected callback. And we get these two methods from HTML element, okay? So next, we're going to create the shadow node, okay? So let's just borrow the code here, right? And maybe I'll just even borrow the first three lines right there, right? Because I'm going to create the shadow node, and then I'm going to create a inner div that we can work with, okay? So I'll just copy these three lines right here. And now we'll need to be able to get our text here, right? So I'm going to get the text. Let's do, actually, let's just set the text. So we'll do this dot text inner HTML equals this dot inner HTML. This is a little bit of a shortcut from what we did below, but it's the same thing, right? We're going to take the inner HTML that's inside our element and set it as the inner HTML of the div that we've created inside our shadow root, okay? And let's take a look right now. So if I'm going to get rid of these guys for a minute, right? So those will be gone. And what I want to do is, maybe I'll even get rid of this form here too. Let's get rid of that. Actually, let me just delete it, right? There, that's good enough, right? So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to create a blink tag. So our tag name is blink text. So let's create that tag. Let's say blink, not blink, blink text, and then let's say hello world. Wait, hello world like this, and we've got hello world, so we know that it's working, right? So now to get this to work, we'll need to make it, you know, flash, right? So there's a couple ways to do this, right? I'm going to use a combination of JavaScript, because actually we could probably just do it with the HTML or the CSS keyframe animation, right? So we could do that. I'm going to do it with a combination of CSS and JavaScript, okay? Just so we get some JavaScript in and we can use this connected callback, right? So the goal here is to assign a couple properties to our element. So one of the properties that we have here is the style property, and that style property has a transition, right? So if you remember transition, we can set this here in JavaScript, and I'm going to make the transition, how about 2000 milliseconds, okay? So if any property changes on our text, then the transition will animate that change, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start an interval inside connected callback, and then I'm going to remove that interval in disconnected callback, okay? So down here, in order to be able to remove the element, we have to have a reference to it. So whenever you create an interval, if you call set interval, it returns a value to you, right? So it'll return like a reference to the timer that you've created, and you can use that reference to clear an interval. So I'm going to say this dot timer equals set interval. Okay. So here I've created the interval, and when I want to remove the interval, what I'll do is I'll say clear interval, and then the interval that I want to clear, it goes inside here. Let me see if it'll give me the, oh yeah, it says handle right there, right? So we need to provide, and it's a number. Really, anytime you create an interval, it just returns a number and says this is timer number 1, or this is timer number 2, or timer number 3, right? And so when you clear it, you give it the number of that timer, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dot timer right here, and that should clear the timer that was created up here, right? Okay, so now let's work on our interval, right? So the interval is going to go here, and we're going to put a callback, right? And I'll put the curly brackets there, and then, you know, I have a function here as the first parameter, and the second parameter is the number of milliseconds. Oops, I need a comma. This is the number of milliseconds between calls to this callback, right? So every 2,000 milliseconds, notice I'm going to match it to this one, right? It's going to call this function, right? So in here, what I want to do is every other time I want to have it fade in, and then on the other times I want to have it fade out. Okay, so I want to have it fade out, fade in, fade out, fade in, right? So we need a way to cycle between those two, you know, extremes, right? 0 opacity, 100% opacity, right? So maybe we should add a property. I'm going to say this dot fade. Let's do how about fade in equals false, right? So if fade in is false, we're going to go to 0 opacity, and if fade in is true, we'll go to opacity 1. Actually, let's make that true to start with, right? Okay. So we'll have a fade in variable, and then right here, I'm going to invert that fade in variable. So I'll say this dot fade in equals not this dot fade in. Okay, so the exclamation point, and if you put it in front of a bool value, a boolean, it makes that boolean the opposite of what it was. So if this was true, then exclamation point makes it false. Okay, so this just changes every time we call this. This is going to change to the opposite value. Okay, true to false to true to false, right? And then what we'll do is we'll say this dot text, that's our element, dot style dot opacity, right? Actually, I like that. Actually, let me do that again. I like that they code hint you all of the CSS properties here when you do dot style, right? So use that to your advantage, right? So here, if our value is true, we want to go to opacity 1, and if the value is false, I want to go to opacity 0. So I think we could actually just make this set that to the fade in value, because I think the true false will translate to 0 or 1. Actually, though, it doesn't seem to be working. Shoot. Let's try it here. Maybe I gotta do this. I gotta say dot fade in question mark of 0, and then, oh wait, let's do 1.0 colon 0.0. Wait, shoot, still not working. Let's check. Let's check that our timer is running. Oh, maybe I'm not waiting long enough. I gotta wait 2 seconds. Shoot, I think it's not working. Let's check it here. So, you know, just to see if it's working, maybe our timer is not getting called, right? So what I'll do is I'll put console log here, and we can say hello, and then let's go over here and take a look. Oh wait, I got an error, right? Oh, super must be called. Oh, I forgot to call super inside my constructor. There we go, right? let's see. Oh, there we go. So my text fades out and then it fades back in. Yeah, so sorry about that. Anytime you extend another class, you must always call super inside your constructor, okay? Sorry, and we did that down here, but I had forgotten when I made the new component. Okay, great. So our text fades out and it fades in, right? And it animates because we put transition right here, okay? Okay, cool. So that was our first challenge, right? Let's get rid of this console log right here. We don't need that. And let's try the second challenge, right? So let's make a new class. Okay, so we'll say class ticker tape. And by convention, we always make class names begin with an uppercase letter. Okay, so I'm going to make that ticker tape extends, and we'll say HTML element. Okay, and then we'll say constructor, and this time we will not forget to call super. And then let's add our lifecycle methods again. Okay, and I'm actually just going to copy these two right here and paste them underneath the constructor. So the constructor has to close, and then we'll put the lifecycle methods here like this. Okay, and maybe I'll just leave this there. I'll just leave the timer empty because we'll use the same timer setup. So we'll want it to set interval, catch the timer reference, and then use that timer reference or timer handle to clear our interval down here. So we'll do the same thing. And last, we want to define a new custom element. So I'm going to borrow this tag here and put custom element here. And it's giving me an error because we have the same name here. So this one needs to be ticker and tape. Okay, so now we have a new ticker tape element. I'm getting another variable there. Well, let's not worry about that. I think it's because I don't know what I did there. I'm not going to worry about it. So we've got our oh, because I used this name again. I got to change that. Sorry. There we go. That's what my problem is. Ticker tape. There we go, right? So now let's create an element here for the ticker tape element. So I'm going to put ticker dash tape here like this, and then I'll put some text in here. So let's say foo bar like this. And we've got our foo bar showing up so that we know that it's working, okay? So next, let's set up our shadow root. Why don't we just borrow the same setup that we did here? So we've got, attach a shadow element, get a new div, right? Create a new div, attach or append that div to the shadow root element, and then get the text from the original tag and put it inside the new div. Okay, so I'm going to put that up here, and now we're all set up to go, and it should look the same, right? Though now we're using the shadow root, right? We can check that if I look at elements here and I open up the body tag and I look at the ticker tape, you'll see that it has a shadow root, and if I look in there, I've got a div and it's got the foobar text inside it, okay? So this is great. Now we just got to get the ticker tape to work. So maybe on each timer right here, I need to get one of the letters and move it to the end of the word, okay? And there's a few ways to do this. So why don't we do this? Why don't we say, why don't we just get our text here, we'll just call it a string equals this dot text. That's really our div, right? Maybe should have given this a better name, but but this is really the div element, right? So I'm going to say div, and I want to get your inner HTML. So this gives me all of the letters and all the stuff inside this div, right? Now what we want to do is we want to actually let's change this to a let, right? And let's say string, let's give you a new value. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say string.slice. Okay, so string slice gives you a piece of the string, and you can slice it at any index. So if you put a value here, if I put 0 there, it's going to slice from the first letter It's going to start on this first letter and then give me all the letters to the end. You can put a comma here, and if I put a 3, it would give me letter 0, 1, 2, right? So index 0 to up to index 3, but not including it. If you don't include the second parameter, it goes to the end, right? But I don't want the first letter, so I'm going to just get index 1 to the end, okay? But now I need to add the first letter onto the end of the string. So I'm going to say string dot bracket 0. So string, the string in JavaScript also acts like an array, so you can get a character out of it with the square bracket. So I'm going to get the first character and append it to the string here that began from the second character on, okay? And then we can do the same thing that we did up here and set the inner HTML of our text element again. So let's say this dot text dot inner HTML equals string, okay? So, oh yeah, there we go. So it looks like it's working. So every 2 seconds, it cycles a letter from the beginning to the end of the string, right? That includes the space too. So when you hit the space, it kind of looks like it's taking longer, right? But anyway, there we go. There's our ticker tape, you know? So here's a challenge for you, right? Add some styles to the ticker tape and to the blink tag, right? So try and style those and see how you do with that, right? And then in the next video, we'll explore web components a little deeper and get into some of their other features, right? So now we're actually making something that's almost useful, okay, right? You know, but we, like I said, we're just beginning with this and we're just scratching the surface, and there's like a lot underneath, okay? So like always, have a great day and thanks for watching.